Going to be doing today is the basic jewelry wax piece. It's kind of the introduction, and that leads to all kinds of other more specialized, but this is how I started developing it. And everyone is going to be different. Everyone just has its own personality. So there's all kinds of fun things that we're going to do with this. Now in this basic kit today, we're going to include 24 crayons, so you can make it any color you want, and we're going to throw in a random metallic color so you can play with the metallics as well to kind of know how those work for you. So I'm going to show you some different techniques and some different tools that I am using, and I'm also working on the 2-inch round today, the round gourd piece. We want to put our tool into our wax to warm it up, just like we do when we're working with any of our wax technique. And it doesn't take that long. I'm going to be using the number 2 tool, the small end, because I can move a wax around without it dripping that much, and just put that right into the wax, into the heater, and warm it up. So I'm going to start with my purple metallic color today, and I'm just kind of spreading the color around in different places. And you can see already how that metallic is different than the other colors. I'm going to make sure I do some up against the edge. When I am applying this on, I want to make sure that I do not go back over what I've already put on, and I'll kind of show you. See how that moves it and kind of makes it yucky because that's already drying. I've switched to a pink here, and we're going to go up against some of those colors, and we're just kind of getting this all on, and here and there, and you can do as many or as few colors as you want to do. And I'm going to use more colors in this one, just kind of showing you. And I'm stopping and wiping my tool off, and it's easier if you have a tool for each color, and then you can just keep going. But if you don't, just wipe them off. If you drip, just go with your drip. It's not a big deal. And we're just filling this all in. Make sure you cover up all of the gourd. You don't want to leave any undone. And I am going to switch. I go to, you can mix the blue, green, and the white to make a turquoise color. And I want to get some yellow in here, some dandelion as well. I really like my yellow. It just helps things pop. You guys probably already know that if you've taken any of my classes. And we're going to switch into some dandelion. But you can do any color you want to. You can mix the colors with the white. We're just going to get this on here and see how I applied it all. I'm going to fill in a couple of these little spots with the yellow. Okay, now we've completely covered our piece, and we are going to go over to our heat gun, and we're going to warm our wax up. And I put some little tie strips at the top of mine just so that I could know where to hang this. You can also just loop this over, it doesn't matter. So you can get about the right length, but that way I can let go of it and it's right where I want it. So I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to start warming it, and I'm going to move it around. I'm not going to keep it in the same spot because you want to keep it all about the same temperature. And another thing, I want to make sure that none of my wax is still kind of really warm so that it doesn't heat faster than the other wax does. So we're going to heat this up. And you can see as it starts to melt, it's getting a little bit bright and shiny. Now, this is kind of melted already, but there's different things that we can do with this. You can blow it on one side to another to kind of move it around and just do it just like that. That is one way of just leaving it as a basic melted just piece, kind of like that. Or we can play with our tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my zero tool in here and I'm going to warm this up, because if this is cold and I go onto my warm wax, it's going to not work as well. So we want to kind of keep this warm. So this is all wiggly, and we're going to come in here and we're just going to start to swirl this. See all this neat stuff that's starting to happen? And I'm going to stop and turn that off so you can kind of see how we played with that. So we changed the design real simple just by bringing a tool in and kind of swirling it. So don't overdo it. You don't want to mix your wax too much. When you mix your wax too much, you muddy it. So if you don't like what you have, simply heat it up again and take it off again. But we're going to set this one aside, but we're going to look at, see this metallic crayon, and it's got these colors, almost looks like glitter in that neat. So that's kind of the effect that the metallic colors give you. So we're going to go and we're going to do some other different applications now. And I'm going to be using the stipple brushes. And like I said, I do one for each color when I am working at home. And these have wax in them, so when you put them in, you kind of have to melt them a little bit, and I will kind of melt them on top of my landing on my melting pot and get them kind of loosened up and working, and then dip into my color. And this brings in bigger chunks of color. So what you're doing is just applying it in bigger pieces. And then I just simply put that in my container and go to my next brush color. And the same as with the tool, don't go back over a part that you've already put on, because you're just going to start messing it up and you want it smoother. Where this just gets it on. It's thinner than how we put it on with the other application, so it works better for different things. It's just kind of, you're going to kind of see what you like and what you want to do with it. Now let's put in some purple here. And another thing, if you don't want your brushes quite as thick, then rinse them or wipe them out and keep them as melted as possible when you're done with them. Now this is a metallic color again, so you can kind of see how that metallic color is there. Now what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to heat it up, and we're going to add a little bit of glitter to this one so you can see how the glitters work. Now I don't get it to the point where it's really melted on this part. I kind of get it to the point where it turns shiny because it's already sticky. And I'm going to use some different glitters, and I like the glitters best if I apply them. And I'm going to put some purple glitter, and we're going to put some glitter in your kit for you so you can play with it. Put some purple glitter right on that metallic crayon, and then I'm also going to throw some tinsel glitter on the pink part so that you can see how much fun the tinsel glitter is as well. I'm going to get it just a little bit warmer again. Right when you can see that it's melty, just put that right on top. Okay. Alright, now we're going to start playing with it again. And remember, you can angle it and shoot it one way if you have the edge where you want to do it the other way. There's all kinds of things you can do with that. I'm going to take my tool again, and I'm going to mix this up a little bit. And I'm going to leave it just right there because I like the way that looks. And like we talked about, you don't want to overdo it as well. And my edge is a little bit runny. If you want to move that around, it's kind of collecting on there, you can. Another thing that I have found works well, and I don't have one handy, is you can take a cotton ball on those edges and absorb some of that extra wax if you don't want that all right there building up. And the drier it gets, the duller it gets, but that's going to change again as soon as we put the varnish back on top. But I want to show you, we've already got two totally different looks here. So let's see how the tinsel glitter really comes up. I like the look of the tinsel glitter a lot, and then we also have the other glitter in there as well. Sometimes just a tad, depending on what you're doing, just really sets it off, and it does not take hardly any glitter at all. So let's do one more, and this one I'm going to use the eyedroppers with and make some different colors here. And this one, I'm going to remove that color. And like I said, if you don't like what you did, heat them up, melt them, wipe it off. It is not a big deal. So I'm going to do the eyedroppers. Grab the eyedroppers, Miriam. Now remember, these are glass eyedroppers. And I am going to warm them up. I'm going to set them into the wax and warm them up. We want to make sure that they're nice and warm. And this is the style of eyedroppers. You'll see me use a couple of different kinds, but this is the best, and this is the kind that we now are carrying. So it is a nice eyedropper. And I am going to come in here, and I'm going to do some yellow. And see, you can do more of a line. And I'm hardly pushing, and when I pull my wax up, I don't hardly pull it up much past there. You don't want to pull it up a lot too far into it. I'm going to put some red over here. Now, a little bit different than how we did with the brush. This is a little bit thicker, so your wax is going to have more to melt with. And a lot of times I'll even use the different techniques together to combine them, the different ones that I'm using. In fact, I think I'm going to use the brush with the turquoise color here, and you're going to see that's thinner. Don't go back over it like I just did. That's the reason why. And putting a little bit of white or black in these is really neat too. We're going to be doing a bunch of these videos. They're going to get more specialized as we're going. Each one we're going to teach you something new and fun. So make sure you check them all out. So I just want to kind of see what this guy looks like here. Alright, so I'm all done with my wax. So I'm going to bring him over and we're going to melt him. Be careful when you're heating this up. This gets really hot. You don't want to catch this on fire, so really use that with caution. I'm going to turn it a little bit. I'm just going to play with it till I get it where I want it. And I'm going to stop. I'm not going to overdo that. And like I said, every time you do these, they're going to be different. But look how great that looks. And this is just heating the crayon up. Remember, this is only Crayola crayon. It is brighter and it is thicker. So we want to make sure that we only use the Crayola crayon. We're going to get ready and we're going to start covering these up with our Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. Now, once they've cooled off, you have to cool them off before you can put it on. It does affect the Mod Podge that you're putting over them, the finish. So make sure that they've cooled all the way. So I'm not going to touch that guy yet. But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to remove all the wax off the sides before I start to put my coating on, so later we can go and put our acrylic paint over that area, and whatever we're gluing on to finish our sides will stay put. If you have your wax and your varnish over the top of that, it's not going to stay real well, so we want to make sure that we don't do that. So we'll clean these off. Let me touch this guy. He's almost dry. We're going to give him just another minute more, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting the Dimensional Magic on him. Now, because gourds aren't usually flat, they run off on the edges, we're going to put it on with a brush. Don't shake these because they do bubble, and you don't want the bubbles in here. And so I'm just going to put this on with a brush, just nice, thick. This is water-based, so you can rinse it out in your sink or wherever with your water after you're done. Make sure you get the edges nice and well. This is still wax. We've got to cover this really, really well. And I do suggest, if you live in a really hot area, that you do test it before you give one to somebody. Make sure it's not going to get too hot. We usually don't leave our jewelry sitting out directly in the sun. We're usually wearing it. But you want to make sure that you have that nice and sealed all the way around. But see how much shinier that is getting and how bright. See, this guy's still dull compared to these guys that are nice and shiny. And I would do probably 5 coats because, like we said, we're putting them on with a brush. We're not just letting them sit there, so we want to kind of build that up. And you want to let them dry and get nice and hard in between each one. And on the final one, it's a minimum of 3 hours before you do anything else. This guy's just a tad warm, but I think he'll be okay. Go ahead, and that just really brightens him up. Okay, so we're going to let those guys dry. Go ahead and rinse out our brush, and then we're going to come back and we're going to finish these guys up. I'm going to show you the proper way to put the finish on this. I noticed just real quick when we were going back, the way I was showing you was leaving the brush strokes, and we don't want that. And we want to just go into a little bit more detail, the proper way to apply our Dimensional Magic. Dimensional Magic is made to be put on thick. So we want to put it on thicker than just a little bit of brushing on. And it's better to have too much than too little. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to start it on the outside. I'm going to put a layer. and then I'm going to put quite a bit in the middle. And actually, from what I found out, it is better to have too much than not enough. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to go along the outside edge, and I'm just going to lightly spread it out on top. And if it comes over the sides, just wipe that off. It's not a big deal. But what you'll notice is when I went to wipe, these ridges right here are going to disappear because it is thick enough for them to blend back together. And if it's not thick enough, you need to apply more of the dimensional magic, and that way it keeps us from getting the brush strokes. Now see, when I put them on more, you don't want to do that. You want to get it on and leave it. You don't want to overwork it. So less is actually better when it comes to putting or using the brush on it. Just wipe a couple times to get that all kind of spread out nice and even, and then you'll notice it start to kind of gel down, and that is how that you want to apply the dimensional magic. Just keep your sides clean, set that straight down, and let that continue to dry.